Welcome to the Sports Degos with your hosts Sonny and Murph. We advise you to turn down your speakers and turn up your crap filters because it's gonna get loud and messy. Just win, baby.
If I don't have to do all the crap I did this past Saturday as far as cut back and jump over somebody and stumble, I don't worry about getting caught, period.
On an unbelievable night, there's a high drive, get way back, and it's 20 to jump in a victory for the Oakland Athletics.
And laugh when he's conquered and won.
We got some physical players on our team. That's the way you have to play to win, and that's the way we play.
Get fired up, I ain't playing. I'm telling you, get fired up. Stand up, get out of that chair, moron. It's time for the Degos. That's right, Murph and Sonny from the Dego Dungeon. You got it right here, live.
Welcome once again to the greatest show to ever make an appearance on Monday night, possibly besides Alf and Monday Night Football and maybe Dynasty from time to time. You are tuned in and dialed up to the Sports Degos. We are live in the Dego Dungeon on Twitter at the Sports Degos, on the interwebs, thesportsdegos.com. Murph, did I miss anything?
Absolutely not. Welcome to Monday Night Degos. What a nice thing to fill in when there's no football. Yeah, there's Monday Night Raw, but it's over now. So tune in to the Monday Night Degos here live.
Maybe that's our thing, Murph. Maybe when after football season's over and done with, we take our little show from Saturday and move it to Monday, and we start calling it Monday Night Degos. That has kind of a good ring to it, Murph.
I kind of like Monday Night Degos. There's Monday Night Nitro. There's Monday Night Raw. There's Monday Night Football. There's Monday Night, I don't know, is there Monday Night Baseball? I don't think so.
Yeah,
Let's go with Monday Night Degos, man. I love it.
I think so. It could be the greatest thing to hit the 8 o'clock hour since Alf back in the day, Murph. Murph, have you ever boogie boarded?
Yes, I have, actually, numerous times. But I enjoy boogie boarding, and I used to enjoy skim boarding, a young Murph in the San Francisco Bay Area. That was always kind of fun. Go over to Santa Cruz and do a little skim boarding.
I was at the coast all weekend. My forehead and my back can prove it. Due to the redness and tomato-like structure of it. There all weekend, having boogie boarding in, probably 10 or 15 years. And I've learned, Murph, it's actually called bodyboarding because boogie boarding sounds a little something that Chris Cluey would want to probably defend. No offense, Chris Cluey. So, Murph, I'm out there all weekend. I'm bodyboarding. I'm having fun. And, I literally learned what it meant to actually, catch a wave. Now, granted, I'm on a boogie board, so this is being a dentist compared to a doctor. It's the lesser of the two cool things you can do on the water. But Murph, when you're bodyboarding, you jump on the wave, and sometimes you miss it, and it goes over you, it goes behind you, or whatever. But when you catch it, when you catch the wave, oh my gosh, Murph, it could be the third greatest feeling of all time. It was phenomenal, man, phenomenal.
Absolutely. There's nothing like feeling the power of the ocean propel behind you and just kind of launch you back towards the shore. It is. It's a pretty cool feeling, man. I'm with you.
It was awesome. So, and then at one point, Murph, I was so excited, right? I felt like a 10-year-old in the water. I'm just bouncing up and down, jumping around, yada, 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 right? So I got my board in my hand, right? And I'm holding it up like I'm reading newspaper, right? I got my hands on the sides of it, and the waves are coming at me, so I'm facing out towards the ocean, and I'm kind of jumping over the waves, trying to catch some air and stuff, right? So I'm with my brother-in-law. We're out there. We're kind of just goofing off and stuff like that. And Murph, wouldn't you know it, I'm not in total control of the board. A big wave's coming. I think, oh, dude, I'm going to get some major air, right? So I leap into this wave, right? Much like Superman leaps over the tallest building. Only, I'm probably 80 pounds more than Superman, sitting at about 240 or so. And my jumping abilities are not very good. So I leap, what I thought was a big leap. The wave crashes into the board. Murph, the board hits me in the face, and the little part, the plastic part on the board that attaches the little rope that attaches to your hand, smacks me in the middle of the forehead, and I go, oh. Yeah, thanks, kids. It hurt real bad, Murph. Next thing you know, my brother-in-law goes, dude, you're bleeding. Now we're shark bait. We're sitting in the middle of the ocean, and I'm bleeding from my forehead, and we're like probably, a couple hundred yards in the ocean, and we're sitting there being shark bait. It was a phenomenal weekend, Murph. Needless to say, I'm grateful to be back where I belong, sitting in a chair, drinking beer with the fan blowing on me. This is where I find my home.
Well, I'm glad you made it back with all your limbs intact after chumming for sharks, after blasting yourself in the face with a boogie board.
And I almost got attacked by a seal, but that's another story for another time. Murph, every week we have a battle. That battle is called the Beer Wars. Murph, I think I got you beat this week. This might be for the third straight week. What are you drinking, Murph?
Well, I've absolutely been on a downturn as far as the quality of the beers that I've been bringing to the table. I fell victim to the light beers, being that it's summertime, and wanted to do something a little lighter, easy to drink, a little refreshing. But boy, I'm telling you, it went downhill pretty swiftly after the Newcastle Bombshell Ale. So after last week, drinking that turtle beer from San Salvador, I've gone back to the well. And it's a school night. Or a work night. I got to be up in the morning, so I can't be diving in and drinking in any kind of quantity here in the Dago Dungeon South. So I didn't want to get anything too heavy, but I did want to get back to my roots of enjoying dark beer. So I went with a staple. I went with something I knew I couldn't miss on, and that what I'm talking about, Sonny, is Michelob's Amber Bock, an American Bock-style lager brewed with 3 unique malts, including roasted and caramel specialty malts. St. Louis, Missouri, Anheuser-Busch product. I love Amber Bock. It was one of the first mass-marketed dark beers, and I know it's a Budweiser and all that, but man, you can't go wrong with it. If you're looking for a dark beer, if you're out and about at a restaurant, whatever, you can always get an Amber Bock. It's kind of like Mariano Rivera. You know it's going to show up. You know it's going to get it done. So today, Sonny, I'm enjoying, or tonight, a Michelob Amber Bock.
Mick Amberlock, huh, Loeb?
Yeah, Mick for the Mick.
Mick Amberlock, huh? Interesting. I can't even say it.
Amber Bock.
It sounds so ridiculous, Murph. Michelob? Really? You're going to bring Michelob to the contest, huh?
I'm bringing in Michelob, man.
You like the Mick. You like the Ultra Lights.
I like the Ultra, too, man. If I can't get a Coors Light, I'll drink a Mick Ultra.
Okay,
You could drink like 1,000 of them, and, they don't add on a lot of weight, don't bloat you, and there's hardly any alcohol in them. So if you're going to drink a bunch of beer, you can drink a bunch of Mick Ultras.
This is true. All right, Murph. I'm pretty confident going into this battle now, based upon what you just threw down. I found a great website, Murph. It's called beeradvocate.com, and it ranks beers. That's all it does. It's freaking awesome. Your beer, Murph, has a BA score, which I assume is the actual score from the website, of a 67, which means poor.
I thought that meant badass.
No, it doesn't mean badass. All right. My score, Murph, 91, outstanding.
Wow.
13 ingredients: malts, Harrington, Clags, Munich, Hugh, Baird Brown, Caraston, 13 to 17. I have no idea what this stuff even means, Murph. One guy writes, look for, smell, 3.25, taste 4, feel, 3.5. What the heck are these guys pouring the beer on their hand? What do you mean feel? Overall, 3.75 out of 5. A light reddish brown, translucent, Murph. Little lacing when poured and very little head. That's not what she said. Smell is not particularly noteworthy. Can detect some light malt caramel scents. taste, very light and malty, a bit sweet. Hazelnut is just noticeable. Murph, I was at the coast. I was actually in about 8 miles south of a town called Newport. Rogue Brewery, Murph, is a brewing company out there. I'm drinking, Murph, what's called the Rogue Hazelnut Brown Nectar Ale with natural hazelnut flavor. It was a winner, Murph. 2-time gold medalist at the American Beer Festival in 2011 and 2012. Murph, I present the Rogue Hazelnut Brown Nectar Ale. Anyway, with that...
no cheers. I'll wait for the applause.
No, there's no cheers.
Cheers. Well, I'll give you one.
Oh, here we go.
Absolutely fantastic job with the Rogue.
Rogue,
the Dead Guy Ale. I absolutely love Rogue. And that's one of the there's a litany of
beers.
Spit it out, Murph. I'm trying. It's late. There's a whole litany of beers that Rogue produces. Dead Guy happens to be my favorite, and I know they do a lot of seasonal, a lot of short runs. I hadn't heard of nor had the one that you just mentioned, but I'll bet it's awesome because absolutely their track record is phenomenal. Good on you, man.
It's a good beer, man. So I figured, when in Newport, right?
Do as new portions do.
Do as new portions do. Exactly. Do as new portions. All right, Murph, we're going to take a quick commercial break. That is where we break for a commercial. Actually, we're going to take a quick Soul Kitchen break, Murph, is how we should be referring to these. Beer Wars on Twitter. Hashtag Beer Wars. Retweet for my beer, Sunny, the Rogue Hazelnut Brown Nectar. Fave for Murph's, Michelob, Amber Bach. Anyway, it's on Twitter. Retweet for Sunny. Fave for Murph's. And we'll be right back. You are listening to the Sports Degos.
Clock says it's time to close now.
Hey, all you podcasters, put the Cheetos down, get out of your mom's basement, find a job, do something worthwhile. Hey, if that don't work out for you, listen to Sonny and Murph. They got some good stuff, you know what I mean?
Welcome back to the Sports Degos with Sonny and the Murph. Welcome back to the Sports Degos, thesportsdegos.com. You can find us on Twitter at the Sports Degos. Murph, every week we look at some people in the world that, maybe they run their mouth too much, right, Murph? You have one of those people who you deal with on a day-to-day basis, and it's just like, these people need a good suck in the mouth, right? They just need to be put in their place and stuff, Well, every week, Murph, you do a great job at finding those people who really just need to, shut their fat mouth already. Murph, who are we looking at this week?
Well, we have a couple of candidates here, and I'm interested to hear your feedback on these two guys who had a half on-air battle, half Twitter battle this week. And I'm talking about newly crowned coach of the Los Angeles Clippers, Doc Rivers, and ESPN basketball analyst Bill Simmons. Now, during the NBA draft, which happened this past week, a really uneventful NBA draft, unless you count the one kid that couldn't fit the hat on his head because he had a big afro, which is pretty cool. But other than that, really, and Nerlens Noel dropping to the 6th pick or whatever. But outside of that, it was a pretty uneventful draft. There wasn't a lot of big names out there. But the biggest thing that came out of this draft really was Bill Simmons' comments in relation to Doc Rivers' exit from Boston. And, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially he accuses Rivers of quitting on the Celtics and lying his way out of the job. So it really a pretty pointed accusation to throw out there, considering that Doc Rivers is considered to be one of the, not only one of the better coaches in the NBA, but one of the, the more well-respected, classy guys out there, and, always liked by players and his other fellow coaches. So really a pretty aggressive analysis on the way that he left Boston and went on to Los Angeles. Well, Doc Rivers, defended himself and basically accused Bill Simmons of absolutely lying, and rightfully so in defending himself. So, Doc goes on to say that Bill Simmons had done everything through Doc's career with the Celtics. He did everything, including calling the front office, writing letters, and wanted to talk to the folks in the front office about Doc's actions, about why he shouldn't be coach of the Celtics. So Doc goes on to defend himself on the record after hearing this during the NBA draft, and then Bill Simmons comes back and says, the quote from Doc Rivers was, "He did everything he could to get me fired, wrote letters, wanted to sit down with others to talk about it." Bill Simmons then replies, "The quote I just retweeted is an outright 100% lie. I'd be careful, Glenn. Seriously, stop talking. You're making..."
Who's Glenn?
Glenn is Doc Rivers' birth name. It's Glenn Doc Rivers. So he went Glenn on him. Much like last week. Yeah, much like last week when I forget who it was and called, it was oh my gosh, I can't remember the guy's name.
White, but he called him Urkel.
Yeah, he called him Urkel. He called him by his character's name. Well, this guy went the reverse and took out the nickname and went proper name and called him Glenn. Anyway, so he goes on and he says, "You're making blank up." So this thing is really kind of escalates, quieted down over the last few days, but essentially you got an analyst accusing a coach of making up lies to get out of a bad situation, to get on to the next one, and the coach defending himself. Now, Doc Rivers says it was a mutual thing. I went in and talked to the Celtics. They were going to cut salary, including mine. This was a good way for them to kind of cut ties, and we're going to get on to what else happened in Boston later on, but this would be a good way for them to cut ties, to reduce their salaries, to attempt a rebuild while moving Doc Rivers onto a team that was a different phase of the franchise, allowing him to coach guys like Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, and to really continue towards winning another championship. So all that said, I ask you this. Number one, who needs to shut their fat mouth? If not both of these guys, do they just need to shut their fat mouth and let this go? But one of the things that Doc Rivers brought up, and this I guess maybe could be an ongoing argument, one of the things that Doc Rivers brought up about Bill Simmons was that Bill Simmons never played in the NBA, never coached in the NBA, and he's pulling that card of, you don't know what you're talking about because you don't know what I've gone through. So I'm asking you this. So not only should which one of these, if not both, shut their fat mouth, but what do you think as far as analysts go, coming from a perspective where they don't have firsthand knowledge of what it's like to go through to be a player coach? Neither one of you or I have zero idea what it's like to be a player coach in a professional sport. Does that automatically, though, dismiss our opinion as false? And because we see plenty of scenarios where you have analysts that are former athletes and stink, but yet you have also former guys that don't come from any kind of a background in the sport, but are journalists and do great jobs. So I ask you those two questions. What do you think, Sonny?
I think number one, Glenn.
Is this on? Hey. Is this on? Hey, shut your fat mouth. I'm talking here.
And I gotta say to Simmons as well.
Is this on? Hey. Is this on? Hey, shut your fat mouth. I'm talking here.
Murph, anytime you take an argument out into the public sector, you both need to shut your fat mouth. It'd be like spanking your kid in the middle of a dinner party, right? You don't do that. That doesn't communicate love. You take her to a room, you talk to her, you do the spanking, and you do it in private, you know? You don't put your dirty laundry out in the public. Come on. The problem, though, is Simmons only exists in the public. So it's not like, maybe he can call him Doc or Glenn. Freaking Glenn. We'll get to that in a second. I don't know. I think they both need to shut their fat mouths. Don't air your dirty laundry in the national spotlight because that's what we all crave, and we all just run like flies to freaking crap when we hear about it, and we love to talk about it, right? Back to your question though, does Simmons ever have a valid claim or a valid opinion? Is what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, and really reaching beyond Bill Simmons, but and it's a long-term argument or long-time argument. Does somebody that doesn't come from the sport, as far as they're historically, if they're not directly affiliated with it via playing or coaching or front office or whatever, are they automatically disqualified in their opinion because they don't have firsthand experience at it?
It's an interesting debate. The big debate right now is LeBron and Jordan and all the stats and the numbers how old they were when they won their second championships and points per game and all that stuff. And so you'd think that's pretty factual. But then again, you got to look at the level of competition. Jordan was playing against those tough Piston teams, Bird, Magic, those guys, Ewing and the Knicks. Who's LeBron playing against? So yeah, I think there's a level of we'll never understand as fans. And I think often on this show, we have definitely never, ever said we are sports analysts or whatever you want to call it. We're fans. We love sports. And we love sports, so we talk about sports. That's what we do, So I don't know. I think it's an interesting question. I think much like somebody commenting on a sunset, you can say, hey, that's beautiful. Do you have any idea how it's made? No. But you can comment and say, hey, that's freaking awesome, or that sucks. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think when you start getting personal with things, that's when it kind of gets to be an issue and stuff like that. When the sports guys and sports analysts attack the guys and stuff like that. But then you got to look at guys like, what's his face? The guy who does the one of those morning shows on the NFL. He's the only guy there who's not a former Rich Eisen, right? I think it's Eisen. Yeah. He's on a panel with all the other sports guys, right? The guys who played the game. And if you watch what Eisen does, he's more of a facilitator than a commentator. He begins the argument, hands it off to somebody, they go around the room, he comes back, he closes the argument, and then he moves on to a different, not argument, but closes the conversation, and then moves on to a different conversation. So in that situation, Eisen works perfectly. Patrick, he talks about his experiences, interviews guys, he's great. And everybody has their opinions. So I don't know. I don't know if it can be 100% nailed down and close the door on it,
Well, I think that's a good point. I think it can go either way because we've had former players or, former coaches that are awful as analysts, and then you have journalists or comedians in Dennis Miller's case, whatever, that have been awful. But then you have ones that are great. You mentioned Rich Eisen. I think he's the best as far as hosts of the show goes. There's some other good ones. There's JB. There's I forget the guy's name that's on Fox, but there's some other good ones out there. Trey Wingo, maybe not so much. Maybe he kind of, of course, his disparaging comments about the Raiders. Obviously, we took umbrage with that. But I think there are cases to be made for both. That there are sports guys that don't do a good job and do a good job. Then there are journalists that do a good job and don't do a good job. But so I think that in fairness to this argument, to Doc Rivers, don't draw that line in the sand. Just because the guy doesn't come from the same background that you do, doesn't mean that his opinion isn't valid. And then Bill Simmons, just because you know something just because you think you know something, time and place, man, is that the appropriate forum? This guy's getting ready to make a major change in his career. Why are you trying to put him on blast for you know what I mean? That's what gives fan quote analysts a bad name. Because when you're coming off these, I'm not going to call it an ill-advised opinion, but when it's kind of out of left field, it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary to the content. You're at the NBA draft. Why are you talking about Doc Rivers' history with the Celtics? You know what I mean? To me, there's no pertinence there. So I think that there could be a case made for both, and absolutely shut your fat mouth to both these guys. And hey, I got to tell you this, if fan analysts are not worth their salt, then we're in big trouble.
We're not fan analysts. We're just fans who happen to go to Best Buy and buy some $50 microphones. That's all we are. We're not analysts. Let's just put that perfectly clear.
Unless it comes to the Raiders, then in that case, we know absolutely everything and no one can tell us different.
We are sports opinionists. In fact,
I love that. We should coin that.
Yeah, we should coin the phrase, we are sports opinionists. So join the sports opinionists Monday nights for the Sports Degos. Yeah, it's a trump card, ultimately, when a sports guy pulls that card, right? Well, I played the game, so you don't know. It's a total trump card because there's nothing the analyst can say that's gonna trump that. You know what I'm saying? I think of Skip Bayless as being probably one of the most annoying at times sports analysts who thinks his opinion is so much more valuable than everybody else's and stuff. I mean, what is the job title of a sports analyst? And if you really think about it, their job is just to get viewers and stuff and get people to listen to them and get people to tune in, much like we try to do through Twitter and all the stupid avenues for our show. So when you think about it that way, the more controversial these guys are, and we can all thank Howard Stern for that in the radio business, the more people are going to listen. And so nobody's going to listen to Simmons if he says, "Oh, Doc Rivers, you're the greatest. Hey, you're the best." Who cares? But if this guy's putting Glenn on blast publicly and writing a bunch of stuff about him, well, of course people are going to listen. And then he's going to get called in for the interviews, and he'll be on the big shows and stuff. And next thing you know, a couple of goombas like us are talking about him on a Monday night when we could be with our wives. So Simmons won, Murph. I like that, Apples.
Hey, let me ask you this. So if the ultimate trump card for an athlete is to say, well, I played, so you don't know, does that mean that we could say to Shannon Sharp, well, we went to English class, so you don't know?
There you go. Or we can tell Shannon Sharp, when we stop talking, it doesn't take our lips 20 minutes to stop.
Oh, man.
It's just him. That's all I'm saying. He's a freaking, looks like a donkey, man. He looks like a freaking donkey. Anyway,
he did play for him.
Huh?
He did play for him.
Who, Sharp?
Yeah, he was a donkey.
That's what I'm saying. He fits.
Yeah.
That's why Elway recruited him, man.
Oh, he's a
could you imagine?
Only people with facial abnormalities can play on this team.
Could you imagine
giant
Elway's
teeth? They want to feel out of place.
Could you imagine Elway's teeth and Shannon Sharp's lips on Peyton Manning's neck?
Oh,
that
my
would be
gosh.
the prettiest, and John Clayton's hairline. That would be the most beautiful face of all time, dude. Of all time. Which brings us to our next segment, Big Stupid.
Stupid. A person below normal intelligence.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
I know I stand in line until you think you have the time to spend an evening with me.
Stupid is, stupid does, sir.
And if we go someplace to dance, I know that there's a chance you won't be leaving with me.
What are you, stupid or what?
Then afterwards we drop into a quiet little place and have a drink or two.
Are you stupid or something?
And then I go and spoil it all by saying something stupid like I love you.
What's the matter with you, boy? You too stupid to do what your coach tells you?
No! No what?
Murph, who's our big stupid of the week, huh?
It's really, really, really challenging to come up with content for this segment every week and not put the Jets on it. Whether it's Rex Ryan or, formerly with all the, the things that went on with Tim Tebow, or this absolute all-star, Mark freaking Sanchez. Mark, we really don't want to pick on you. I'm really trying to find other people in the sports world that have done dumber things in the week prior than you have. But unfortunately, you and even more unfortunately, your ass end up being on this big stupid list more often than not. Mark Sanchez, you're already going to fight for your job against Geno Smith. The reason that the Jets drafted Geno Smith was because you have underperformed at your position and you are now under pressure more than ever to show that you have what it takes to be the starting quarterback of the New York Football Jets in the biggest city in the world with the most exposure, the biggest media exposure in the world. So what should you probably do this offseason? I know it's tough, man. You're a young guy. You got a lot of money. Chicks dig you. I get it. But keep your head down, toe the line, stay under the radar, get into camp, and fight for your job because you got a young guy, a young talented guy coming up behind you that's going to challenge you for it. But instead, Mr. Butt Fumble himself decides to qualify himself by a big stupid this week by partying with some supermodels and videotaping it. And, again, I don't begrudge the guy. You're a young guy. Girls like you. You got a lot of money. I get it. You're going to have that kind of attention. I'm not telling you don't party and have fun, have a good time, be responsible with it. But the last thing you need, the absolute last thing you need right now, Mark Sanchez, for your career is to be videotaped dancing while you're doing it. Even more so to be videotaped dancing with your pants off. What? Just assume everything you do as the starting quarterback of the New York Football Jets, just assume every minute of every day you are on public display. The fact that these guys, and I get they're drinking and maybe kind of, get caught up in the moment, but you always have to be conscious of the fact that anything you do can and will show up on the freaking internet. This big stupid got caught dancing with his pants down in a Vine video. He said, well, I didn't think Vine videos could get downloaded. Dude, it's the internet. If it ends up on the internet somewhere, it's going to end up on the internet somewhere else. So anyways, Mark Sanchez, we're rooting for you. Well, no, I'm not really rooting for you, Mr. Hot Dog on the sideline. But, I don't know. Just think. Just slow down for a half a second. Think, you big stupid.
Murph, what the heck is going on up there in New York? It is unbelievable. I want to like Rex Ryan. I like his bravado, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did anyway until the foot, video and stuff. But it's like you want to like Ryan. He's almost a little bit like I may be getting murdered for this, but he almost presents like a Raider, right? He don't care. He tells it like it is. He's like, whatever. But then you got the foot fetish video. Then you got the tattoo. Then you got every stupid thing he says that's not cool. And then you got Sanchez doing this. Then it's like, okay, well, as much as I want to credit Ryan for being a Raider, he has a quarterback doing this kind of stupid stuff. Are you kidding me? I just watched the video for the first time. This is unbelievable. This is beautiful stuff, Murph. I'm not talking about Sanchez in his butt like Keanu Reeves in The Matrix 2, which ruined the whole entire movie. I'm talking about this is media gold, man. How are you so stupid to not know that this is media gold? And if you do this, it's going to end up all over the interwebs and all over everybody's Twitter, and that's what people are going to be talking about the next day. They already hate you. Why would you give them more ammunition? This is like the third grader coming to school or the fifth grader who everybody hates, and his parents make him wear a buttoned-up shirt and put a pocket protector in it. It's like, why would you feed the fire, Murph? I don't get it. I absolutely don't get it. Is this guy just dumb or what?
He's got to be. And, thankfully, when I grew up in my 20s, there wasn't, high quality HD video on everybody's phones. Shoot, everybody didn't even have a cell phone to begin with. So thankfully, unless someone had a big old video camera at a party, you weren't going to end up anywhere else. And you certainly weren't going to end up in someone else's office or living room because they're going to put it on the internet. So I kind of sympathize a little bit with the upcoming generation from 10 years ago now forward, because you are on public display. It doesn't matter if you're out at a club, Josh Hamilton. It doesn't matter if you're in, this apartment, dance around with supermodels, Mark Sanchez. You're going to be on public display. We all are from this point forward. There's cameras everywhere. But then the part that qualifies him to be big stupid, it was that this isn't Joe Sixpack that ends up on the internet, on a Facebook or Twitter. You got to know that as part of your job, you are a high profile figure. We're a couple of schmucks with a podcast, and we're talking about you because you are the quarterback. You're one of the few. There are only 32 people in the entire world that do what you do. You have to know that everything you do is on public display. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me that these guys don't get it. You've mentioned before about the sense of entitlement and the catering that we do to athletes as they're coming up. And I don't know, maybe they just that sense of there's a sense of security because of the money and the attention. And I don't know what it is that enables that. But I guess what's even more curious to me is that you got guys like Vince Young and Mark Sanchez that don't know to get themselves out of this situation. And then you got guys like, Russell Wilson or RG3 or Andrew Luck, whatever. I'm sure those guys have fun. I'm sure they go out and have a good time, but you don't ever hear nothing from them, man. So why chronically is Mark Sanchez get himself into these situations? I think I don't know if there's a good answer for it. I think it's you got to just look at the guy, and he's just one that chooses to make bad decisions. And it's not like he's, accused of double murder. Unfortunately, like you know what I mean. It's not. He doesn't do anything that's, horrific or, it's just dumb. It's just stupid.
Okay. He doesn't do anything horrific? Butt fumble.
That was pretty
Hot
bad.
dog.
Oh, yeah.
Butt video.
It was stupid.
I mean, seriously. Butt fumble, hot dog, butt video. This guy's a freaking idiot. It'd be one thing if he was Joe Montana, he's winning Super Bowl rings, and then everybody would probably laugh and say, ha ha, Mark Sanchez, he's a hot dog, and throws for 4 touchdowns. But it's like, when you're like mediocre, when you consistently let down one of the biggest metropolitan areas in the whole entire world on a consistent basis, and then put up stupid videos of you looking like a freaking flamer on the internet, dancing, I mean, man, dude. It's unreal. But, Murph, I love it. I'm an Oregon State Beavers fan through and through. And I witnessed twice, first-handed, Oregon State beating highly ranked USC teams at Oregon State in Corvallis in their rink-a-dink stadium that holds 44,000 on a good day. I got to watch old butt fumble himself walk out of the stadium frustrated because he threw an interception at the 3-yard line when the game was on the line and they were coming back to win it, and he got picked off, and he walks off, and he takes his little mouthpiece out and throws it against the wall. Oh, poor Mark Sanchez. I love it, Murph. I love it. Absolutely love it.
There was a story that came out also earlier this week about how the Raiders had to, quote, settle for Tyler Wilson because Matt Barkley was the higher quarterback on their board. I'm calling that a blessing. Forget the USC quarterbacks. Forget them.
Have we ever had luck? There's never been luck with the USC quarterback.
Well, all time, sure, but not recently.
When was the last good USC quarterback to do well in the NFL? Now, Palmer, you could say he had a pretty good career with the Bengals until he hurt his knee. I mean, who knows what happens? He was a gunslinger back in the day. As much as we hate him as Raiders fans, you can't not credit him for being a gunslinger before he hurt his knee. But when was the last great USC quarterback to come out and really do good?
Oh, well, I mean, what do you use to qualify good? I mean, Super Bowl winners.
Not committing butt fumbles, Murph, would be one.
I mean, just going through the list. I mean, well, of course, Todd Marinovich, that's he's way up there. I don't know, Rob Johnson. I mean, he won a quarterback. He won a Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, unfortunately, it was against our team, but I mean, I would say recently, that's got to be it. You got to go to Rob Johnson as far as recent history. Recent history of USC quarterbacks has got to be him.
Here you go. I just found an article on CBS Sports. I'll try to read through it here. A couple things. USC Trojan quarterbacks have won 11 national titles. 6 during the Super Bowl era, but no USC quarterback has even played in a Super Bowl.
Oh, I'm thinking of not Rob. Yeah. Oh,
that's interesting. That's interesting.
Shame on me. It's not Rob Johnson. He played for the Bills. I'm thinking of Brad Johnson.
Oh, John David Booty. Oh yeah, he's great. There's nobody. I'm looking. Let's see. Stanford had Elway and Plunkett. Washington had Warren Moon. UCLA had Troy Aikman. And we're talking strictly, strictly Pac-12 here. Drew Bledsoe and Mark Rippon both played at Washington State. Are you kidding me? Washington State, I've been there. It's horrible. Dan Founts went to Oregon, as much as we hate him. Steve Bartkowski played at Cal. Aaron Rodgers, obviously Cal. Here is a list. Here we go. USC quarterbacks who have played in the pros. Paul McDonald. Do we know him?
No.
Todd Marinovich, obviously. Rob Johnson. You were correct.
But I said he won the Super Bowl. He didn't. I was thinking of Brad Johnson.
No, yeah. John David Booty. No. Carson Palmer. Mark Sanchez. Matt Leinart. Sean Salisbury. What was he, number 12 on the Vikings back in the day?
Yeah, and speaking of sex scandals, he found his way out of a career real quick.
Yeah. Rodney Peete, the old Lions quarterback. He was okay.
And Raider, too.
Yeah, he was okay. Pat Hayden, Vince Evans, Bill Nelson, Matt Castle, and Pete Beathard.
I could have swore there was at least one that played in the Super Bowl, but you're right. I'm going through the list here. There's no USC quarterbacks that have ever started in the Super Bowl. That's mind-boggling.
None, dude. None. Here's what you have to say at this point, Murph. Carson Palmer has achieved the greatest success as a USC quarterback.
Well, you weren't kidding.
Is crazy.
So, yeah. So I guess, historically, wow, this has been eye-opening. Yeah, good thing the Raiders stayed away from Matt Barkley because the odds are certainly not in his favor.
Now, as our good friend Russell Baxter would comment on, these kind of odds have no playability whatsoever. For instance, when the Niners went to the Super Bowl against the Ravens, up until that point, no 49ers quarterback had ever thrown an interception in the Super Bowl. Is that going to help Colin Kaepernick not throw an interception in the Super Bowl? Well, of course not. And so is the lack of success by USC quarterbacks going to help Matt Barkley to have success or not have success? Can you actually say that? Is there a curse? Is there a mental block he's going to have to get over? I don't know.
Well, you know what, though? You bring up an interesting point, and I would say this, and now we're totally off the beaten path here, but I think it's a good discussion. That I think, though, that while the coin has no memory. When you flip a coin, it doesn't know whether it was heads or tails. So do all the predecessors? Do they dictate the success of Matt Barkley in the NFL? The answer to that question is no. But does the program and the exposure at USC elevate these guys to a position to where they are higher ranked or higher drafted maybe than what they should be based on other players? So does his exposure at USC and their success over what, say, Tyler Wilson's was, does that then move him higher up the ladder? I remember listening to Mark Sanchez on the Dan Patrick Show when is it Patrick Show or Rome? But either way, I remember him kind of making the rounds and when he decided to leave USC, of course, Pete Carroll was dead set against it, wanted to keep him because Sanchez was going to give him a better chance to win football games. But he was kind of doing the route, and it's like how many other quarterbacks that come out a year early get a chance to go up and down Radio Row at the Super Bowl or to be on the Dan Patrick Show or to be on Jim Rome? Not a lot of them, but Mark Sanchez did. So maybe that's the difference. Maybe that because you're at USC, because you are at one of the higher profile programs in the country, that if you have any kind of success, maybe it gets blown up to a little more so than what your worth actually is, so that when you do end up in the NFL, you kind of seem to be a letdown no matter what you do, unless you go out and win a Super Bowl. And apparently they can't do that because none of them have ever even played in one.
Pretty eye-opening, Murph. I am certainly glad the Raiders did not pick a USC quarterback. Murph, we need to hit up commercial break. We are 4 minutes and 20 seconds, bro. Past our time. You're listening to the Sports Degos.
Coach, halftime's almost over, okay? I know you're friends with the Colonel. Put the chicken down. Let's play the game.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
How many times has this happened to you? You have a bass and you're trying to find an exciting new way to prepare it for the dinner table. You can scale the bass, remove the bass, tail, head, and bones, and serve the fish as you would any other fish dinner. But why bother now that you can use Ronco's amazing new kitchen tool, the Super Bass-O-Matic 13? Yes, fish eaters, the days of troublesome scaling, cutting, gutting are over because Super Bass-O-Matic 13 is the tool that lets you use the bass with no fish, no waste, and without scaling, cutting, or gutting. Here's how it works. Catch a bass, remove the hook, and drop the bass. That's right, the whole bass into the Super Bass-O-Matic 13. Now, just adjust the control dial so that the bass is blended just the way you like it. Yes, it's that simple.
Wow, that's terrific bass.
We've got bass here. Fast, easy, ready to port. Super Bass-O-Matic 13 comes with 10 interchangeable rotors, a 9-month guarantee, and a booklet. 1,001 ways to harness your bass. Super Bass-O-Matic 13 works great on sunfish, perch, sole, and other small aquatic creatures. That's Super Bass-O-Matic 13. It's clean, simple, and after 5 or 10 fish, it gets to be quite a rush. Super Bass-O-Matic 13. You're never going to have to scale, cut, or gut again. Just send $49.95 to the Sports Degos, care of the Dago Dungeon, Oakland, California.
Welcome back to the Sports Degos with Sonny and the Murph. Hi, you're listening to the Sports Degos. I am your host, Sonny. And in studio, halfway across the country, is Murph.
Yeah.
Murph, how are you?
I'm all right.
You can find us on Twitter. Did you have a rough day? Did you have a rough day, Murph?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can find us on Twitter at the Sports Degos.
But don't rush out there. There's not anything that great there.
Yeah, you have to hold down the shift. Hold down shift, press the number 2 on your computer, and then THESPORTSDEGO. I'm sorry I went too fast. My head's not in it today. I'm just thinking about so many other things right now. You can find us on the interwebs. I say that because it sounds kind of funny, but really it's called the internet. Al Gore invented it. thesportsdegos.com, THESPORTS dot, like period. So again, you have to hold down that little funny shift button and push the arrow sign to the right, period, COM. Thank you.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Sad sack.
It's really unfair. It's my team. It's my quarterback.
Sad sack.
I'll be lying if I said that it didn't bother me.
Sad sack.
Sometimes emotions is what makes a person.
Sad sack.
Promised Mess I wouldn't do this. But, as I said, there comes a time when
Sad sack.
Oh, I just changed my shirt. My chicken!
Sad sack.
I'm not a sad sack, am I?
You complete me.
Sad sack.
Murph, who's the sad sack of the week?
My gosh. You know, there was a bunch this week, but there was one glaring. And let me start off by saying this. Sonny, you know who's in first place in Major League Baseball in the East? Let me give you a hint. Like Shocks, Kaz, Pac, Chowder.
Chicago White Sox.
Close.
Oh, dang it.
Boston, friggin' Red Sox.
Oh,
Noma.
yeah. Forgot about that team.
The Sox, right?
Okay.
I know those are tired accent jokes, but point is, the Boston Red Sox are in first place. That's something to be excited about. That's something to be happy about, right? If you were a Boston sports fan, wouldn't you be stoked that your Boston Red Sox are in first place above the Yankees and the Orioles and the Blue Jays, right?
Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
You gotta love it. But unfortunately for the Boston sports fan, that's where the happiness ends. Boy, Boston has got to be chock full of sad sacks. He's a bum. They're all bums. That Paul Pierce, he's a bum. Kevin Garnett, he's a bum. Why are they bums, and why is Chowder Nation and Beantown sad sacking it? Because not only did they lose their coach, Doc Rivers, as we mentioned, to the Los Angeles Clippers this week, but they also lost their star, the long time, only ever played in Boston. They lose Paul Pierce, championship winning Paul Pierce, to the rival Brooklyn Nets. They also lose KG to the rival Brooklyn Nets. And if that's not bad enough, those were only two members of the Big Three last year. And yes, they were the first Big Three, not that one that happened in Miami. But unfortunately, the prior year, they lost the other member of the Big Three, Ray Allen, to the Miami Heat, who just won a championship. When was that? When did they win the championship?
I heard a couple years ago. I don't know.
Or just maybe 2 weeks ago? I think it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, Ray Allen, the former of your Big Three in Boston, wins a championship. The Boston Bruins lose Game 7. 2 quick goals late to lose the Stanley Cup to the unheralded Chicago Blackhawks. They cough up the championship. They choke it away at the last second. And absolutely, last but not least, Mr. potentially triple murder, 3 murders this guy could be linked to. Your star tight end, you got one tight end with a broke back and a broke forearm. You got the other one who's gone and never coming back. Aaron Hernandez, sad sacks. Boston, Beantown, I'm sorry. We love you. Man, I don't like any of the New York sports teams. I root for the Boston teams because of that rivalry between the two cities. But, man, this has been a sad sack week for that city and their sports teams. And for their sake, I hope the Sox go on and do some good this year. Of course, not better than the A's, but I hope the Sox do something and win that division to maybe kind of lift that city back up from their sports funk that they're in, you sad sacks.
You know, Murph, a lot of cities I'd feel sorry for in this situation, but Boston, it was once rated the best town to go to college in. It's Boston, right? It's Boston. Second to what? New York in the East and stuff, Celtics, Bruins, Red Sox. They got all the teams over there and stuff, So, I don't feel sorry for them, but man, can you have a worse weekend? Are you kidding me? I did not know until today. I was at the coast and life's been busy. I didn't know Pierce and Garnett got traded. That is crap crazy. Are you kidding me? What is going on in the Celtics? Danny Ainge, have you lost your mind? Are you just saying, hey, they're all getting old. Time to rebuild. Let's go. And does it make sense? I guess it makes sense. Glenn is gone. Allen is stepping on the out-of-bounds line and sinking threes down in Miami and winning championships and saving LeBron's hide and forehead from ridicule. He's found a new home. Garnett and Pierce, what are these, like the bosom buddies? Think they're a package deal now and stuff, What do they both go to Jay-Z's loft in New York and get wound and dined and stuff, like, good on you, Jay-Z. Good on you. Got those 2 studs to go along with your, already pretty good team.
Oh, along with Williams and Lopez. I mean, that's going to be that's going to be a team that can certainly going to contend in the East. Absolutely. And you know what? And let's not glass over the fact that you absolutely, I'm glad you said it. You nailed it. Ray Allen saved LeBron's ass.
Oh, give me a break.
Dude, that game was over. Game 6 was done. Ray Allen, I heard it today on PTI. I forget if it was Kornheiser, Wilbon said it. Ray Allen rewrote NBA history with that shot. Absolutely. Yep. No doubt.
Yeah, he saved LeBron. I mean, yeah, Ray Allen would have never been in position had LeBron not had the 18 points, whatever he had before that. Needless to say, LeBron missed his 3. Ray Allen made his. And there's a picture going on the internet that shows he stepped out of bounds. But that's no big deal. Okay. Moving forward, Murph. Obviously, Aaron Hernandez. I don't even want to pay it no more time on our sports opinionated show here. Boston Bruins. Do people care about hockey? I forget. Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so the hockey team lost. Murph, if the San Jose Sharks win or lose, I'm not committing suicide. I'm not gonna jump off a bridge. But if the stars of your team get traded away, if your basketball team is demolished, if you now have to wait years for a rebuild, oh wait, you're talking about Boston or Oakland here?
I was gonna say, it sounds familiar, doesn't it? Danny Ainge,
grow a pair, Boston.
McKenzie.
Be a sports fan in Oakland. We do this every year. Shut your mouth, you sad sacks. Yeah, you had a bad week. Who cares? I'm not.
Yeah, it's not like they've been shy on championships here lately. I mean, yeah, we make fun of the fact that the Bruins got knocked out, but they won a Stanley Cup recently. The Patriots have had an absolute phenomenal run since they cheated the Oakland Raiders. You know, the Celtics won their championship. You know, the Red Sox have won a couple of World Series. It's not like there's been a drought of championships. So absolutely, I'm with you. It's like, you know, I kind of felt bad for them because they had a bad week, but in the whole, you know, from a historical perspective, they've had a pretty decent run after being, you know, owned by New York forever. You know, they've had a pretty good run here over the past 10, 15 years. So no one's feeling too terribly sorry for Boston, but they certainly didn't have a good week.
Murph, every week we like to point out somebody who is maybe a little overly confident. We call him the of the week. Who is it this week, Murph?
Well, you know, there was during the NFL Network's broadcast of the top 100 players in the NFL, and this last week they had the final 10. And, you know, Adrian Peterson was named the number 1 player in the NFL, and rightfully so. I mean, he's the comeback player of the year. He's one of the all-time greats at the running back position. It was a pretty good show. And anyways, they had an in-studio guest, and that in-studio guest was Aldon Smith. And Aldon Smith was rocking a Jerry curl, which almost got him to Big Stupid for this week because it's not a good look, dude. It wasn't a good look in 1983, and it's not a good look now. But Aldon Smith qualified instead for Big Cocky. And the reason why I said that is that he was on that list. He was on that list of the top players, and he was highly criticized. And I got to give Dion and the other analysts credit on that show because they kind of called him out. You know, Aldon Smith turned in 19 and a half sacks in his first year as a full-time outside linebacker, and really challenged the sack record for a while, but then fell off in the last 6 games and the 49ers playoff run and didn't have a sack. So anyways, if you don't know who Aldon Smith is, he's the outside linebacker, full-time 3-4 linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers, and he plays on the same side as All-Pro Justin Smith. And that's really what the focus of this argument was that how high should Aldon Smith be considered on this list based on the fact that really he's kind of enabled by the guy that technically plays in front of him. You know, that's the guy that's sucking up the double teams, creating the mismatches, and freeing up Aldon Smith. Well, Aldon Smith went on to talk this offseason about the fact that he had a good look at the sack record at 19 and a half, but because his production absolutely fell off, that he didn't have a chance to get it. So this is his quote. This is what he says. It's a goal, but I'm not punching myself in the face at the end of the season if I don't get it. I'm young, I'm learning a lot, and I'm getting better. My goal is really just to get better every year. As long as I do that, then if it was 14, then 19 and a half, at that rate, it should keep going. Hopefully, I should be able to trump that record and keep going. Now, listen, I respect the confidence. This segment is all about, are you cocky or are you confident? That to me is a statement that exudes cockiness. I don't to think that you're automatically going to qualify from 14 and 19 and a half and then to break the sack record in your third year, considering all the greats that have come ahead of you, and really the number one guy for single season sack record we mentioned on last week's show is Michael Strahan. To think that you're automatically just going to qualify for that and that the natural progression of your career is going to equal you breaking the sack record. I got news for you, dude. Justin Smith is the absolute reason that you even approached that record, because of what he does, as I mentioned, sucking up the double teams and everything. But then also, I found another article that really, dude, this lit it up for me. I'm gonna ask for your reactions on each one of these points. Okay, what they did was, in this article, they went and broke down all 19 and a half sacks that Aldon Smith had last year. Sonny, he was only double teamed once.
Well, there you go.
7 of his sacks, no one was on him. He had a free run at the quarterback. 17 of his sacks came when the 49ers had a lead. 12 came when the Niners had a double-digit lead, and 7 came with a 20 or more point lead. 10 of his sacks came in the fourth quarter. Only 1 sack came as a result of a stunt run with Justin Smith, and many of his sacks came when going against average or below average blockers. Now, that one I'm going to throw out. Aldon Smith can't control of who plays in front of him. He can't control who that left tackle is. He can't control that running back that comes over to pick up the block. I'm not going to begrudge him for the guys that played in front of him. But what blew me away was he was double teamed once, and 7 of those sacks, there wasn't anybody on him. That tells me that it's not Aldon Smith, it's Justin Smith that's the MVP. That's the guy that's creating this kind of action. And you know what? Coincidentally, when Justin Smith had some injury issues last year, that's when the production came off for Aldon Smith last year. So Aldon Smith, I'm calling you cocky this week.
And isn't Justin Smith 47 years old or something like that?
Yeah,
isn't he pretty old?
Yeah, he's getting up there.
And so Aldon Smith, he's a young guy, isn't he?
Yeah, 2 years in the league.
Yeah, 2 years in the league. So the real story here is going to be 2, 3, 4 years down the road when Justin Smith is gone. How well does Aldon Smith do? And the fact that he's sitting here saying, and this is his quote, "It's a goal, but I'm not punching myself in the face at the end of the season if I don't get it." I don't get that, man. Like, if you're that close to breaking a record, why would you not want to put everything into breaking that record? Except for maybe if the coach takes you out. Now, on the other flip of the coin, you got to look at Adrian Peterson. What was he, 7 yards away from breaking the rushing record this last year?
Yeah,
he was asked about it. Yeah, didn't even know it. And so it'd be one thing if it was like that, where he didn't even know, and would he have tried harder? Who knows? And is this the same situation as Aldon Smith here, getting close to that sack record? But very interesting, the decline and the numbers, or the stats, I guess, behind the stats of when he got his sacks and all that kind of jazz. Definitely too cocky, needs to shut up. A couple things on the article, a couple quotes from people in the people commenting. Should punch himself in the face for not showing up in the playoffs. Aldon Smith is pedestrian without Justin Smith. The proof is in the stats. Jared Allen had a torn labrum the entire season, not just last 3 games, and still had 12 sacks. J.J. Watt dislocated his elbow before the season and wound up with 21. Healthy, he would have shattered it. Pretty interesting, Murph. Pretty interesting. Definitely a little too cocky. You may need to, shut your mouth up. Anyway, Murph, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And Murph, it'll be brought to you by, it's a little known brewing company. It's located out here in Oregon. Many people just don't really know much about it, Murph. I think you know about it, but there's many that don't know. And I'm curious if we were to market this this beer through our show, if people would get on the bandwagon for a little Simona. What do you think?
Absolutely. We should at least start selling T-shirts.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start selling T-shirts. You're drinking Simonas with the Sports Degos, right? Have a Simona on us.
Have a Simona with the Sports Degos. And you know what? And credit to you, sir. You invented this beer, for crying out loud.
Well, you know. They invented it. I just mixed it together. All right, coming right back. The Sports Degos.
Coach Salty talks about the power of Simona.
You know, I've always heard about the power of Simona. I was never really sure exactly what that meant. So I went out and got some. Found out for myself.
Hey, Coach Salty, are you free tonight?
Works every time.
The dynamite taste of Simona works every time.
One hour's not enough. We got too much to do. We got too much to say. That's right. We're back for hour number 2. It's Sonny and Murph, the Sports Degos.
Welcome back to the Sports Degos with Sonny and the Murph. You can find us on the interwebs at the Sports Degos on Twitter, thesportsdegos.com on the interwebs. Murph, we're all over the place. We're on Spreaker, we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're all over the place. We still get about 7 views a week.
No, we get more than that. It's dude, no, it's like 12. 13. I'm telling you, we're blowing up. We're going worldwide. Hey, and if you do listen to us on iTunes, rate it, review it, please. That's what helps us. Subscribe to it. Make it nice. Even if you don't mean it, just throw us up a few stars. You know what I mean?
Make it nice, Murph. Make it like a nice dish of pasta, right, Murph? Like your grandmother used to make.
Hey, a nice dish. Let's have a nice dish.
Pasta. Whopping historical fact of the week. Murph, what great Dego, what great Italian, what great Sicilian are we celebrating this week for the whopping historical fact of the week?
You know, this week we don't have to go too far. You know, we've talked numerous times about the Mount Rushmore of Italian Americans. You know, and really, Mount Rushmore only has 4 faces on it. Our Mount Rushmore for Italian Americans could go much, much more. You know, you got Frank, Dean, Tony Bennett, De Niro, Scorsese, Rocky Marciano. I mean, there's a whole litany of Italians you could put up there. And also on that list, or on that Mount Rushmore of Italians, you could put one Joe DiMaggio. I'm talking about Joseph Paul Joe DiMaggio, who was born Giuseppe Paolo DiMaggio, and actually Mr. DiMaggio was graced this show before as the whopping historical fact for different reasons than the one that we're going to talk about tonight. But, born in Martinez, California, he's a Northern California guy. And so anytime I get a chance to feature Joltin' Joe, I definitely want to do that. Especially this time of year. I mentioned last week, there's not a lot of sports tie-ins that go on this time of year when we look at the calendar because there's not a lot of sports that go on this time of year. So really right now, the only thing we got going on is Major League Baseball. All the other major sports have wound down. And so something really cool happened on this day. And, of course, today's date is July 2nd. July 1st. It's now a little past midnight where I'm at. So July 1st. And back in 1941, Joltin' Joe DiMaggio extended his famous 56-game hitting streak on this day in 1941, eclipsing the previous record held by Willie Keeler. Now, Willie Keeler actually hit in 45 games straight, but his streak started the last game of the season the prior year. So really this streak runs from 1896 through 1897. So technically Joe didn't break the record till the next year, but Joe did his in the single season where Keeler stretched his over a couple. Ultimately it doesn't matter because Joe went on to hit in 56, but so that to me was a pretty significant accomplishment by Mr. DiMaggio, but also the fact that he didn't do it in the dead ball era like Keeler did. That, Joe did this, with a live baseball and a lot more, obviously a lot more competition, much more competitive pitching. But so we celebrate that feat, that 56-game streak that, that may be one of those records that we may never see get broken. Career numbers, we'll see things like that get broken. We saw Drew Brees break, Marino's all-time yardage record. And we're going to see as the NFL continues to extend their schedule and change the rules and do all of those type of things. And even in Major League Baseball, when you look at career stats, whether we're talking the all-time home run number or whatever it may be, as we increase the games and the potential, in the postseason and all the chances for these players to have these lifelong stats. The single season stats, to me, are the ones that can really jump out, especially one like this, because hitting in 56 games in a row, it doesn't matter how many games you play. It doesn't matter unless there's a major rule change in baseball. You're lining up at the plate with a pitcher 90 feet away from you, throwing his best at you, challenging you to put the ball in play. And the fact that DiMaggio did that 56 times in a row, I don't know if we'll ever see that again. Here we are, however many years later from 1941, and it's only been challenged a couple of times. Pete Rose hit 44 in 1978. Jimmy Rollins was the closest in recent history. He had 38. 36 of them only came within that one season. So, Sonny, I don't know if that's a record we'll ever see broken. So on this day, we celebrate the fact that Joe DiMaggio beat out Willie Keeler for the hitting streak at 44 games. You, Joe, are a whopping historical fact of the week.
Good job, Murph, on your expert. Not so much speech, Murph, because it's late and it's okay. It's okay. On the research, man, the research. It's amazing. It's amazing what you do every week. Joltin' Joe, man, one of the best. And it just so happens to help that he's a Dego, Murph, that he's Italian. I love that fact about it. It's the greatest thing about Joltin' Joe DiMaggio. Love it. We went over the best Yankees of all time. And remember, Joe, I think, was 5. Was that right?
Yeah, he was much further down the list than you and I expected. Absolutely.
Yeah,
but
Gary
when
was ahead
you
of him.
Consider the fact that you got guys like Babe Ruth and Mantle, and I think Maris ended up a little higher than we expected.
Yeah, that's right. I do think though that the hit streak is the one that will never get broken. You got to assume with the pitching that goes on today, with the hitting that goes on today. I guess not as much the hitting, but the pitching. The pitching's phenomenal. And I think good pitching will always trump good hitting. And I think the pitchers are just getting bigger, stronger. They're getting nastier. The balls are getting faster. They're diving more. They're curving more. I don't think we'll ever see that streak broken. I think that's the one streak in sports that will stand the test of time, and I think it's truly one of the greatest stats of all time, which makes baseball great, doesn't it? And that's what's so hard about the steroid era, because baseball was stats. It was numbers, and it was percentages. And when you thwart that, however you want to look at it, when you make that not true, shame on you, man. And I think that is the greatest tragedy of what Bonds and McGwire and those kind of guys did. Is it made everything baseball was kind of made a little less. It's really sad.
Well, I agree with you. And I remember for the longest time growing up, one of the stats that I was most fond of remembering was the top 10 home run hitters of all time. And when we got into the late 90s and the early 2000s, that top 10 changed. It seemed like every year that thing was changing because of the steroid era. But that's one of the things that I think is so pure about DiMaggio's record, is that while steroids or HGH or whatever these guys have done, while that may take a guy that would typically have warning track power, give him an extra 10 or 20 feet of travel on his fly ball to increase his total amount of home runs, the actual hitting, that isn't influenced. That's hand-eye coordination. And while the steroids or whatever may give you some better twitch skills, some better bat speed, ultimately it's about placing and it's high hand-eye coordination as far as hitting goes. And I think that that's something that I don't know if there's ever a drug that can influence that. So when it comes to baseball especially, the 56-game hitting streak is the purest record left. Like, it's the only one that can't be tainted, because you got guys like that. Obviously, when we look at Roger Clemens and, maybe Andy Pettitte or, whoever the other pitchers are, even the pitchers were influenced by performance-enhancing drugs. But when it comes down to hitting, when it comes down to making contact and putting the ball in play and getting on base, there isn't any drug that's ever going to influence that. So I love the 56-game hitting streak, and I hope it never goes down.
It's one of the best. And Murph, if you have that hitting streak, you have been made.
Well, you know why we're here. So if you got any doubts or reservations, now is the time to say so. No one will think any less of you, because once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
The thing that made Jimmy so happy that morning was that this was the day that Tommy was being made. Jimmy was so excited, you'd think he was being made. Jimmy and I could never be made because we had Irish blood. It didn't even matter that my mother was Sicilian. See, it's the highest honor they can give you. It means you belong to a family and a crew. It means that nobody can f*** around with you. It also means you could f*** around with anybody just as long as they aren't also a member.
Murph, who are we looking at this week to be made?
Well, I did some research and came across this story that I thought was absolutely awesome, and especially the fact that it pertains to the premature delivery of a baby that was just outside its expected delivery date. And knowing that your wife is just outside her expected delivery date, I figured that you'd get a kick out of this story. A lot of fun here. Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'm talking about Nicole Colwell and her husband, Matthew Colwell of Howell, Michigan, were on their way to the hospital. Nicole didn't expect to give birth until mid-July, but she started feeling the contractions and the all the signs of going into labor. So they hit the road, headed to the hospital, and about 10 minutes from the hospital, it got to the point where they couldn't make it anymore. So Matthew Colwell called into 911, and the 911 dispatcher walked him through the delivery of their baby, and they delivered a beautiful baby girl right there on the side of the road. The baby came out. He didn't know what to do. Everybody was kind of nervous. And obviously it was unexpected, but he took the baby, laid it on his wife, and as the firefighters showed up, one of the firefighters actually dealt with cutting the umbilical cord and all that kind of stuff, and healthy baby girl, and all is well. But I thought that was so funny that here they are 10 minutes from the hospital, and it's like, okay, Dad, it's like I can, I know what it's like as a father to kind of feel all the, the lead up, to all the unknown, all the unexpected to before your first child is delivered. But the fact that all of a sudden, 10 minutes from the hospital, they're like, oh yeah, guess what? You got to deliver the baby. I mean, the fact that this guy came through on that, I thought was awesome. So Matthew Colwell from Howell, Michigan, you, sir, are made here in the Dago Dungeon.
I don't like that story, Murph. I don't like that story one bit. That puts a lot of pressure on me now.
You better start Googling and researching YouTube videos on how to deliver a baby.
I've been to a lot of birthing classes over the last several weeks. In fact, we're now graduates of the local birthing class over here. But that puts a lot of pressure on a guy to deliver a baby on the side of the road. And it's something that I've thought about. I think, I don't know if everybody, I'm assuming everybody, thinks about that kind of stuff as their wife or whoever is, prego. That's incredible. It baffles me because as you're sitting in these birthing classes, they're saying all this stuff. Well, this and this could go wrong and that could go wrong, and this is what the baby's going to do. He's going to turn his head and slip a shoulder out and all that kind of stuff. And the cervix has to be 10 centimeters and blah blah blah. Like I could teach the class, Murph. I know it, but man. There's a large part of me relying on the nursing staff and the doctors that'll be in the room, And so to have to be the guy who goes from, hey, you're doing great, honey, to, okay, I can see its head, start pushing stuff, hey, you're pretty cool. And maybe Matthew Colwell should be the main guy in this, great job, Mom. Matthew Colwell, you delivered a freaking kid on the side of the road, right? Who needs to spend $100,000 and go to medical school? Matthew Colwell. Good job, man. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he's definitely the one that is made. And yeah, I mean, how much could he have saved on the front end? If maybe you got to get that guy. See if he's busy. Yeah. What do you got? 2 weeks?
Matthew.
3 weeks?
I'm going to call Matthew. Murph, what if we had the first ever live birth on internet radio?
We might move up to 15 listeners.
That would be epic. That would be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool. We got what we call it, the birthing Dago.
The birthing Dago. There'll be a Dago birthed in the next couple of weeks, and I will take him home in Raiders gear. It's already been confirmed.
Nice.
All right, Murph. We've reached the end of our little show here. Congratulations to Matthew and Nicole Colwell for being made this week. You win absolutely nothing. But a round of applause from us here at the Sports Degos. Good job. Congratulations to Mark Sanchez. You win absolutely nothing from us here at the Sports Degos except the crowd booing you once again. Something you have heard so many times already in your short, famous career, Murph. Joe DiMaggio, you get the children.
You can't give Joe the boo.
I gave him the children. He got the ah.
Oh, is that an ah? Okay, all right.
Yeah, that was the ah. That was the ah. Alden Smith, you get the Okay, moving forward, Murph. All right. Monday Night Degos to be postponed until a later date. We will be live, I think, this Saturday, Murph, or we might have a best of Degos show this Saturday. That all depends on the 4th of July plans for the Degos. And but you can check us out on Twitter at the Sports Degos, the website thesportsdegos.com, on Spreaker. There's links to Spreaker from the Sports Degos that will take you to all the archives and blogs and everything we've ever done, except for our little Madden radio shows. Murph, any last words before we go?
No, just thanks again for joining us here in the Dago Dungeon for Monday Night Degos. Look forward to this weekend, whether it's a best of show or a live broadcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your participation. Again, if you check us out on iTunes, throw us up some stars, man. Be nice.
That'd be good. Murph.
Yeah, Murph.
Special shout out to Christy Girardi. I think that's her name. She
Girardi.
Remember her?
Kate Girardi.
We had her on the show talking about the Warriors Fan Fest. Next thing you know, over here at Sports Degos Inc., a.k.a. my address, we get shirts mailed up to us. I love O.co, and we are Warriors. Love it, Murph. Love it. That's the beauty of sports and the beauty of that Bay Area connection, man. Awesome stuff. So thank you. It's Kate Girardi, isn't it? Not Christy. What am I thinking?
Oh, it's Kate Girardi, right?
Kate Girardi. Kate Girardi, Christy Girardi, whoever you are, we're friends on Twitter. We know who you are. Kenneth Guatro. Thank you for the shirts. Kenneth Kniff from Oakland.
Way to alienate our one ally in Oakland.
Kenneth or Christieth Kniffith from Oakland. Thank you for the shirts. We are so very proud. All right. Sports Degos are out.